So, Alec and I, on a whim, like we always do, decided to go to Algonquin National Park. We departed Montreal by car at around 7:45 a.m. Normally this is about a 5-hour drive, but we ended up taking some long stops along the way to get some food, equipment, stuff like that. Like I said, since it was on a whim, we weren't exactly prepared. We just knew we wanted to go there. We had bought the day before reservations and tickets and stuff like that. So it took us about 2 hours, I would say, to get to Ottawa. And normally that would leave only about 3 hours to get to Lake Opeongo. However, it actually ended up taking us a lot longer than that. We got to Lake Opeongo at 4 p.m. Thankfully, it's long days, it's spring and everything, so we had sunlight until like 8:30, so we had some time to canoe. I'll show you a couple pictures from the road trip. So unfortunately, when we first started the trip, we didn't plan on making a video or anything, so I don't have many videos, but this was the countryside closer to Quebec. It's got this lively green grass, you can tell the trees are bushy compared to when you get closer to Algonquin National Park. So when you're a little bit further up north, further west, we get these sort of swampy grounds, a lot of lichen, and the trees are very tall and spiky, like coniferous trees. So that's the main difference I've noticed in terms of nature. Another pleasant aspect that we've had is when you're in that sort of landscape, the ground isn't covered by so many bushes and everything, so it's nice. You can walk through, you can walk under the trees and everything. It's very pleasant. So here in this next picture, if you notice at the bottom in the south, that's where Opeongo Outfitters were, which is where we first rented our canoe and first started on the lake. We knew the lake was big, but we didn't know exactly what size. So in our inexperience, we planned on day one making it to, of course, what you see the marker on the northwest, planned campsite. And I don't know if you're an experienced canoer, but that is a very big distance, especially for two inexperienced canoers in such a big lake where there's waves and everything. I believe it's around 16 to 20 kilometers to get up there. If we had made it to the Outfitters at noon like we had planned, then maybe that would have been possible. But in our case, we got there at around 4:30. We got on the lake at 5. It's not happening. So we made it all the way to where you see day one. And next to day one, you'll see confusion. We got to that island and we had a map, but the map doesn't show every island. So that big island that you see that says day 2, we actually thought it was another island that was further south that barely shows on that map. You can see a pixel. For reference, this is what the tiny island looked like that we mistook for the big island, nicknamed day 2. To be fair, we had driven for a long time. We'd canoed, there was heat and everything. We were kind of exhausted. So looking back, it's a little bit embarrassing, but that's the first confusion, which led to more confusions afterwards. So confused and slightly exhausted, we kept pushing north until we reached the marker named Confusion. And on that island, we saw some things left behind by other campers, prohibited items in that camp, such as fireworks and stuff. We thought we were further up north. So if you take a look straight north of day 1, there is a sort of horn-shaped island, and to the right of that, there's a pretty big. It's not an island because it's connected to the mainland, but we thought we were there. It was very confusing. If you were there in person, you would have kind of seen why we were confused. But either way, we lost a lot of time trying to find ourselves once we got to the marker named Confusion. and we decided to end the day at and set up camp on day 1, which is the marker. So in this next video, that's the southern point of the lake where the Outfitters is, and this is the canoe that we had, which we ended up naming Lady Macmillan. I don't know why, but she ended up treating us nicely. And here's a little video of her. Here are 2 beautiful pictures taken on the lake, and judging by how small everything is, you can tell how big the lake is, of course. So you might remember the marker that says Confusion, which is the first island that we actually stopped at, like getting off the boat completely. In the next video, you'll see the litter. This is how we found the camp. There's fallen trees here. Looks fallen instead of cut. We got foil, blueberries, cutting board. We also saw this sign which shows that there is a bathroom nearby, and by bathroom it's like a little wooden sort of makeshift toilet with a hole in the ground. So next up is where we first camped. So that's the island named Day 1. I also wanted to apologize for taking the videos in vertical instead of horizontal. We didn't know we were gonna make like a recap video of that, so that's our bad. You're good? Is it filling? So at this point, Alec and I, we were pretty dehydrated. We barely had drinking anything at all during the day, and we had canoed so much. So we ended up getting some water from the lake, and Alec's mom had given him, it's called like a Sani pen. I think it uses ultraviolet to kill or remove like certain viruses and bacteria or something. It ended up being very clutch because we used it quite a lot for our drinks and stuff, because we tried boiling, which honestly you should still boil even if you use that pen, I'm pretty sure, but ashy water is not fun to drink, so it was clutch to have that on hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Now there's the timer. You just stir for 90 seconds. Ah, c'est bon.
On day 2, we ended up having to fight the elements a little bit. There wasn't too much wind, thankfully, but there was some rain and some very cloudy skies, which honestly did not bother us that much. It was actually kind of pleasant to have some very soft rain fall on us as we were canoeing and branching out and visiting different islands and such. So just listen to how calming this is. So along our travel route on the canoe, we met this beautiful lonely seagull on the rock, and this family of three, I think they're mallards, or however you say that. We almost ran one over with our canoe, so that was a little scary on the first day, but on the second day they were nice, and we saw three of them. Also, the pictures are blurry because when I took them, my phone was actually in a Ziploc bag, for safety reasons, of course. To our surprise, the sky ended up clearing up not too long in the day. So the second day of canoeing basically followed this line. So we started off on the island of day one, and we went all the way down southwest to those islands, which is where we saw the seagull. We were essentially looking for another place to camp, just to keep it interesting. And after about 2 hours, I think, of canoeing in the rain and everything, the sun started getting out, and we noticed the island that is conveniently named Day 2, which is where we figured we would set camp because the island was bigger. The campground looked a little bit more suitable as well, especially because we forgot the tarp. So in that campground, we found a place that was flat to lay the tent, and thankfully it was under some trees, so we had some natural cover. And once we figured out where we wanted to sleep, we canoed all the way back to day one, packed our stuff, and made our way back to the island on day 2. When we got there, we got welcomed by this beautiful burgundy black ladybug who showed us the way to the camp. Well, at least that's how I'd like to think about it. Our second camp for the day. Or camp for the second day, jeez. We got Alec. Yeah. While Alec was preparing supper, we were getting watched by a watchful guardian. We were able to make a beautiful fire that kept us warm, and it lasted throughout the night. And believe me, it gets cold up there at night, even in the warm spring. Having learned our lesson from the night before, we did not want to be so cold, so we ended up building this beautiful tripod above the fire where we hung our sleeping bags. And not only that, at least me, when I went to bed, I took 2 warm rocks and put them in my sleeping bag as well. I was cozy. Beautiful songbirds. Despite the very gentle videos, day 3 was unexpectedly very rough. we ended up having to face some extremely strong winds and very powerful gusts of wind at times, and in such a big lake with inexperienced canoers, that can be first of all very scary, but also quite the challenge, and it turned out to be one hell of a workout. Now unfortunately we don't have like any footage from the really strong parts, because obviously we were all both focused on rowing instead of filming. But here's an example of some of the wind that we ended up facing. And trust me, the video does not do it justice. In the meantime, please enjoy this calming video. I hope you enjoyed the little recap of our trip, and with that I'll leave you with two things. The first is this beautiful family of goose and little gooselings, I think? I don't know. Anyways, a very cute family nonetheless. And lastly, well, I'll let you decide on that last one. Thanks.